And it's absolutely fantastic to have you on. Honestly, it's so good, especially like this morning. And I've got a good stack of questions for
Oh, go on.
to give you.
Absolutely happy to be here.
Well, obviously, I mean, I met you a few years ago at the Edinburgh Festival, which was a joy to see your show, which was absolutely amazing. But we're going to your beginnings here, and obviously you've obviously did some like some of the classics shows from like back in the 60s, 70s era, and you went and one of the things I was going to ask you, what made you want to be an actor?
Well, I got into acting quite by mistake, really. I always tell the story when I'm asked that question. I got into acting because of my raging hormones, if I may. I was going to a youth club. I was about 15, 16 at the time. And I was going to a rather boring youth club every Sunday with my friend Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to me one week and said, I found this amateur dramatic group for under 21s, which of course we were locally. He said, "Well, you would come along with me next Friday." And I said, "What are you talking about, amateur? What do you mean? What do they do?" And he said, "Well, they sit around and they read plays and they put shows on." And I said, "What do you mean act?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah, eventually." Well, it was the last thing on God's earth I had ever wanted to do, you see. I was 15 years old. I was 6 feet tall, covered in spots, Buddy Holly bottle-end glasses, no self-confidence whatsoever. And the last thing I ever thought I'd ever do is get up in front of people and be silly or perform.
Yeah.
And he said those magic words, "The girls are very pretty." And I said, "What time do you want me?" It was as simple as that, So I went along with him the following week, and he was dead right. Some of the girls were very pretty. And I sat down with the script and with the others, and we were reading a play, and suddenly I heard laughter. And I thought that was something new to me. And I thought, I like this, I'm having some more of this. And I carried on reading, and there was more laughter. And something just went click in me, something went ping, and I suddenly found something I liked. And it did my self-esteem an enormous amount of good. And really, the rest is history. It rolled along for a few years in Amdram, did all sorts of little plays with a couple of good theatre groups. In fact, my old amateur dramatic theatre in Walsall, my old hometown, the Grange Playhouse, is now where I really moved on from that little Amdram group with the co-op. But I moved on to the Grange. And I'm now patron of that very theatre. So they made me patron. So I'm very happy with that. So, there we are. That's how I got into acting. Quite by accident. About raging hormones.
Absolutely fantastic. Women have to be the lure, just to feel you in. Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. But like, I mean, when you did that, obviously, when you did your first bit of acting, it kind of, you get the bug from it, don't you? It's like you want to do more.
I did. It became the only thing I really enjoyed doing, and the only thing I felt that I was any good at. So it was logical to move on from there when the time came.
Yeah. So when you were doing that, I mean, before you actually had an idea that you wanted to be an actor, was there anything else that you actually wanted to do, once you left school or stuff?
No, I was just doing fill-in jobs, really, when I left school. I left school at 16, got my, what were then called O-levels. And, my father had died when I was 14, and my mum was struggling to bring my brother up. He was 3 years younger than me. And so I sort of left school. I'd got no interest in staying on at school to do sixth form or anything like that. So I got a job to just help out with bringing some money into the house, small as it was. But he just helped out. So I was just filling in and killing time, really, and so doing the Amdram and enjoying that every weekend until the idea clicked into, try and train to do it professionally eventually. Circumstances changed, and my mum remarried eventually a few years later, and then I was felt I was free to do what I wanted. And after a long chat with my stepfather and my mum, if I didn't try, I'd never know. So off I went to drama school in Birmingham.
Very good.
years of training there, and very lucky to get into rep straight away after I finished that. So there wasn't much rep around then. In 1968, I'm talking about. There were a few reps left, and Coventry was one, the Belgrade Theatre. And I went on to there, and I learned my trade, really. I spent nearly 5 years there in the rep, learning my trade.
Very good. Did you have a good time being there, like doing it? Meet some good people?
Yes, I met some lovely people, and in the rep company back in those days. Some of the people, myself included, went on to become known. Gareth Hunt was in the company there. David Suchet was in several plays with David. And people like that. We all went through the rep in those days and learned our business.
Fantastic. I love David Suchet. He's a wonderful actor, isn't he?
Amazing one.
Absolutely fantastic. But then, I mean, obviously, once you did that, I mean, you got the call to go on Dixon of Dock Green. How did that feel when you?
That was my very first speaking part on television in 1974. I think that was. I'd done a couple of extra work when I was training in Birmingham. They called upon the college occasionally to provide students for background walk-on artists, just to be in the crowd, as it were. And I played a policeman and all kinds of things in a series called United, which was being made at Birmingham at the time, about a football team. They wanted extras, and the first time I met George Layton was in that.
Oh, brilliant.
George then, and he was a lovely chap. We got on very well. And then, of course, Dixon of Dock Green came along later when I was still in rep, and I went along to do that, and it was wonderful because Jack Warner was over 80 then, and he shouldn't have been playing a policeman. He should have been. I mean, he was such a lovely fellow, and he was such a popular show. They couldn't let it go, But he was a lovely man. I remember we were sitting in the green room one day, and the girl who was playing my wife in it suddenly walked into the room to relax for a bit, and he stood up. And because we all had to stand up. All the ladies entered the room, and an old-fashioned gentleman stands up, and he did. We all stood up. She was so embarrassed. She was, "Oh, please, sit down. But that's the kind of man he was, Perfect English gent.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that ran for a few seasons, didn't it, Dixon of Dock Green? I mean,
and Judy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, obviously back then, I mean, to cut yourself as an actor, I mean, obviously a lot of people went to do these type of shows like Dixon of Dock Green, Z Cars and shows like that. And yeah, but then you went and met Jimmy Perry and David Croft. I mean,
2 years later, about a year after that, yes, I met Jimmy and the first time because I've been asked to go up and audition for the Dad's Army stage show in the West End in London, the Shaftesbury Theatre. And the chap I'd worked with at Coventry, Roger Redfarm, he was staging it for Jimmy and David, although Jimmy and David were overseeing the direction of it overall. And he knew me because I'd worked with him a lot at Coventry, and he knew how versatile I could be, and I'd be quite useful in the show, playing one of the girls, doing bits and pieces. So I went along to the audition for that with absolutely nothing prepared whatsoever, because I was working at Chichester at the time. I was doing the festival there. And I had to leave Chichester after the first two plays because there was nothing for me in the second and the third and fourth play of the season. But the chaps I was sharing a house with were staying on to do the whole season. And I had to leave. And I was really, I was in a foul mood. I was in a foul mood on the day I went for that audition. I couldn't get my head round it. I didn't want to do anything. I went up to London to the audition at the Mermaid Theatre, and I got nothing prepared. I hadn't even got a song or anything ready for them. And if I thought, well, if they want me to sing, I can sing Hang Out the Washing on the Siegfried Line or anything, from the wall. And I went in and I was given a script to read, to prepare, to have a look at before I went in to meet them. And I found Yes, We Have No Bananas in it, sung by Walker, the Spiv. And I thought, well, if they want me to sing, I can sing that, Anyway, I went in with the script and I met them, and, was politeness all round. And they asked me to read a couple of scenes, and I read a couple of scenes. One was Ian Lavender, Pike,
Mm-hmm.
with the company manager playing the Uncle Arthur part, Wilson. And he was so bad, he made me look brilliant, you know. He was awful. It was awful. He was a company manager. He wasn't an actor, you know, but he did his. And then I had to do this mad German character too, which was lovely, sort of silly voice German inventor. And they were laughing away, and I thought, well, you know, my esteem was going up, and I was getting more and more into a good mood. And then we got to the bit where they said, now what about a song? And I thought, right, let's do it. And I said, look, I found this in the script. I said, well, yes, we have no bananas, sung by Walker. It was a parody. You know, he hadn't got any bananas, but he got Nick-o-Rustic, all kinds of things inside his overcoat. You know, there were watches, contraband watches, and all sorts of things that were, you know, on the black market in the war. And so they would go ahead and do that, you know. So I did. I said, don't mind if I do it with the book in my hand, because it was, you know, written down. So I picked the key with the pianist, and we hit it, and I went away and did this song for them, and they were laughing like drains. Oh, this is great. This is going so well. I'm loving this. I'm rather cheeky. He said, you enjoyed that, didn't you? You know. You know, and they said, yes, we did. I said, but you wrote it. He said, yeah, well, we wrote it down. We gave it to the typist, who put it in a drawer when she'd done it, and we haven't seen it since. They heard it played back by me, and they loved it, and I got the job. It was wonderful. I got the job. I joined the company as one of the boys and girls, the ensemble, and we were all dressed in wartime reserved occupation costumes. You know, I think I was dressed as a fireman with a uniform and a tin hat. There was a nurse, there was a Bevan boy, there was a land girl. You know, all the reserved occupations: bus conductress, nurse, nurse. And of course, I was asked to understudy Pike and understudy Walker as well. Now, Jim Beck had already died, bless him. He died 2 years previously to that. But they put Walker back in, but then it was because it was a good foil for Captain Mannering. And they put it in. He was played by John Barden, who played Jim Branning in EastEnders. You know, he married Dot. He'd got a lot more hair then. And he played Walker. But when we did the West End run, John didn't want to do the tour. We went on in early '76. We went on a national tour with the show. You know, big show, great, wonderful, sellout everywhere we went, big theatres. And John didn't want to do the tour because he got other things he needed to get under his belt. So he turned it down. And I got a phone call from Jimmy Perry one day in early '76, saying, "Would I like to take over as Private Walker?" Wow, I couldn't believe it. 29 years old, you know, and suddenly I'm playing Walker. And well, it was easy for them. You see, I'd understudied it, I learned the part, I knew the words, and there was no rehearsal needed for me, and they were saving a salary. So that was, you know, it was all to the good for everybody, really, all concerned. So I said, yes, of course. And, you know, I'll never forget that first night at the Nottingham Theatre Royal, the curtain went up, and I'm standing there with my rifle, you know, with all the others. I'm a member of Captain Mannering's platoon, and he's there, you know, in the front, with a salute. I was so moved. I was almost crying with, you know, with pride. It was fabulous feeling, and I really enjoyed playing that. It was fun. And that was my, you know, grounding with Perry and Croft, and because of all the things I had to dress up and go and change and get to do. In the West End version, before I took over as Walker, David realised how useful I could be to him, and that's how it's all snowballed into the other stuff I did for them as well.
I tell you what, I bet the audience loved it. They absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, I mean, it's great hearing that. I mean, especially down the West End. I mean, Shaftesbury Avenue and the theatre district. It's fantastic there. And it's like, I mean, obviously, you did some more work with Croft and Perry as well. I mean, you've been on about 4 or 5 other shows with them, haven't you?
I did. David asked me to come and be a customer in Grace Brothers, you know, which he wrote with Jeremy Lloyd, and I did a couple of those. I played a hippie in one, and I played a guy that made a blazer. It was good. The customers didn't have names; they were just called a blazer or the shirt. You know, I was the blazer. and another one, and a couple of 8 Hot Mums I did as well for them. David asked me to come and play a couple of little cameo parts in that. One of which called The Superstar, which I did in '77, I think. I've always thought that was my unofficial audition for Heidi High, really. It was a wonderful character to do, and if you ever come across it, do have a look, because it's a good laugh. I did this 5-minute act. I turned up as this gormless twit, completely gormless twit from the RAF who wanted to join the concert party, but he was auditioning for them. And that was the fun of the piece I did. He could do everything that they could do, but better on his own. You know, he sang opera. He played classical piano. I had a little help from my friends with all this, I have to say. It wasn't me. That was my things. And he played jazz trumpet. I mimed to Kenny Baker, the great jazz trumpet player, Kenny Baker. He played the Flight of the Bumblebee, and it was a joy to mime to that, you know. And I did a little act as well with a dummy at the same time. At the same time as I was playing the trumpet, I was doing the voice, because that was pre-recorded. That was part of the gag. Really, it was such fun. And that went down so well with the audience in the studio that night. And I think David realised that I could be quite handy to it. And then, as I say, 2 years later, in 1979, when Heidi High came up, they put Spike with me in mind. So that was a sort of a done deal then, really. So that was me. I got a call from Jimmy Perry, again saying, would I like to play this character in this new show they were doing? Wow, would I like to? Oh, I did bit. It was a great thrill for me to have something
brilliant.
Like that.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's one of my favorite all-time shows is Heidi High. Oh yeah, especially, I mean, every time Gladys is singing on the tannoy thing and Mr. Pratchett says, listen to that silly cow. Honestly, that cracks me up. Absolutely brilliant. You know what? I was going to ask you as well. See, on Heidi High, right? See, like when you get chucked in the pool.
Yeah,
Is that on the one take, or did you have to do it a few times in the one day?
I mean, we got up to what they call the splash shot, and that was it. We had cameras on one side, cameras on the other, one across the side of the pool. So David had got 3 shots that he could edit to get the angle on it. Because once I was in the water, that was it. Once you're wet, you're wet.
Yeah.
I'll get dry and do it again. So we went up to the splash, and then we did the final splash shot. But we got it right in the end, and it was something I'll be honest, I never really enjoyed that at all. It was rather uncomfortable. Most times I had a wetsuit under the costume that I was wearing, over the top, just to insulate, because that water was freezing. It wasn't heated at all. It was just an outdoor pool, And there was one occasion when I was unable to wear a wetsuit because of the costume. I was dressed up as Miss Maplin. Fishnet tights, high heel shoes, a bathing costume, a long blonde wig, balloons, and I had to slip on a banana skin and fall in the pool. And it was the one. It's called Peggy's Big Chance. That episode. It was the one where Peggy's in the rubber shark pool.
I remember that one.
Menacing me, it all went horribly wrong because I was treading water. When I got in the water, it was freezing cold. We had to postpone the shoot of the pool sequence for 2 weeks for technical reasons. And the middle of October when we shot that, and it was absolutely Arctic. That water was freezing, and I was stomping away, and while they were shooting a bit over the other side of the pool, and I'm in the water now, and I've got to stay in the water, and I'm treading water at about 9 feet. I'm not the strongest of swimmers, and my legs started going numb. It's crazy. If I don't get out now, they're going to have to pull me out, So hypothermia was setting in.
Oh dear.
I shouted up to David, I'm sorry, I've got to get out. So I did. I pulled myself to the side and I got out of the water. But they put me in a hot bath, and I was fine. I was after lunch. I was absolutely fine. But it was a real worry at the time. And one of the tabloids got hold of the story. piece about it, and I think it was the People on the following Sunday, and a big double-page spread in the middle, and the headline said, "The day I nearly Heidi died."
Very good.
Anyway, the downside of doing Heidi High for me. That was.
Oh dear. Oh, that's one funny tabloid. But you know what though? It's like, I mean, obviously, I mean, you're probably, would you say you were maybe best known in all the things you did as best known as Spike more than anything, would you say?
Always have been, always will be. You know, it doesn't matter what I do, what I've done since, and what I'll do in the future. You know, I'll always be that bloke from Heidi High. Well, not my people, and I don't mind at all. I'm very proud of that. You know, because I'm very proud to have been a part of what was the great British classic sitcom era in the 80s. You know,
brilliant.
Usually those 2 decades were classic, all-time great comedy. There'll never be anything like it.
You know what? I mean, back then, I mean, in the 80s, I mean, all this classic, I mean, all the best, I mean, being a Scotsman, all the best comedies were from England. You know, it's like you had, obviously, Heidi High. I mean, I love the 70s comedies as well. I mean, I was a big fan of Leonard Rossiter. I mean, I loved him in Rise and Damp. You know, I loved, obviously, Porridge. And, you know, but even like the Croft and Perry, I mean, 8.5 Hot Mum. Oh my God. That cracked my dad up, that show. And, just, you always know a Croft and Perry show. At the end, it's like you have been watching at the end of it. And then it shows you all the actors' names, and you must have had a blast making those little captions, you know, when you're like doing all that stuff. And oh man, it's absolutely fantastic. But going back to Heidi High right now, and obviously being a big fan of Laurel and Hardy. Now, your late great pal Paul Shane, honestly, he's had a great chemistry on Heidi High. Well, not just in Heidi High, but on other shows that you've did. And did you not see your partner, like your chemistry, kind of similar to like Stan and Ollie?
Well, yes. I mean, there was a great relationship between Paul and I. I miss him terribly. Bless him. He was such a good pal.
Yeah.
We got on, so we did share a love of Heidi High because he liked it as much as I did, you know. And we talked about it all the time. In fact, we used to drive David and Jimmy nuts if they put it in. They put the references in to Laurel and Hardy a couple of times, and then there was an episode where it finished with a Laurel and Hardy theme tune. It was called "It's a Blue World," where Ted tries to get all the male campers into the milk bar after midnight for a movie. You know, and it's a few quid on the side, and he's got this naughty movie. Well, of course, Spike doesn't approve of this at all. And at the end of the thing, when the police arrive, because the police had been tipped off, and the police arrive, everybody's there, and some of the boys and girls are trying to have a pajama party at the same time, you know, and they're in nice attire, and the police inspector says, "Now, what's going on here? It's an orgy," you know, and there's a film projector up, and he said, "Constable, switch that projector on. Let's have a look at what's going on." So that he switches the projector on, and you hear, Spike has swapped behind Ted's back. He's taken the naughty film off, and he's put a Laurel and Hardy on. So he got him off the hook. And the last line of the episode is me looking at Paul Shane, who's really looking. It's another nice mess I've gotten you out of.
Brilliant. I could remember that. I could actually remember that episode. Absolutely fantastic. Honestly, but that, I mean, how many years did Heidi High run for? It must have been over 9 years.
Yeah, we the first series was aired in 1980, and we finished the last series in 87, and it went to 88. So 80 to 88, yeah, you can say 9 years really, and when then repeats. Gold, it's still on the Drama Channel, and Gold is still showing it. They've got put a couple out this week, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you could watch that show over and over again, and just the casting in it was just so perfect. You know, It's like yourself and Paul, you had Ruth Marek, obviously Sue Pollard, and even the likes of, I mean, the Punch and Judy man, Leslie,
Well, you
and
see, that was
Felix
Jimmy and
Bonas.
great gift, was casting the right people for the right parts and putting the right characters together.
Oh, fantastic.
In all their shows, the comedy came out of the situations. They didn't write jokes; they just wrote situations. Because all those businessmen in Wilmington-on-Sea would never have socialized, never have got on together at all, other than under the common umbrella of the Home Guard. They were forced together, to work together for the common good. And that's where the comedy came from, the relationships between each other. And it was the same in H.R. Fotman. They were all conscripts, with their various talents, if you can call it that, into the concert party based on Jimmy's experience, because Jimmy ran a concert party in Doolally over in India and then Burma. And that was based on what they knew. And of course, then came the holiday camps, and they based all the characters in Heidi High on people they knew from Butlins. They'd worked at Butlins. Jimmy was a redcoat. In fact, he was virtually Spike, Jimmy himself. He was the comic. He did the summer season during his summer breaks when he was training at RADA to be an actor. He did the summer show, and he went to Butlins to be a redcoat. And he learned, all about it there. David used to produce variety shows in the theatres at the same time in the 50s when they did those things. And of course, it all changed afterwards. But and of course, they based all the characters on people that they knew. There was an old ballroom dancing champion couple who hadn't won a cup since 1943, and there was an old Punch and Judy children's entertainer who couldn't stand children. He hated There was a riding instructor who looked after the horses and donkeys, who had been a jockey and had his license revoked because he pulled a race. He'd taken a bribe and pulled a race. And that was true. And they were all based on people that they knew. And like Spike was Jimmy himself, But that's where it came from, all that. Because, again, you see, all the characters were failures in their chosen professions. The only time they could enjoy their jobs was when they came together to be something big, a big fish in a little pond in the whole summer season. Ted was demonstrating potato peelers, the ideal home. Spike, tax office, he wanted to be a comic, and Ted pulled him in to be comic. And that's the same with all the others, they were failures. But that's where the comedy came from. That's why it was so good to put those people together.
Oh God, it's just like when you watch it, and it's like the drunk Punch and Judy man, and and Barry and Yvonne. Oh my God, even Barry cracked me up. Just his looks on his face, and just his so it's just so funny. And they know it's like they two had chemistry as well. But who I thought was brilliant was Simon Cadell as Jeffrey Fairbrother.
Amazing. A fish out of water in the true sense, a wonderful actor. He was. And he played that part right up to the hilt. And it was totally genuine, and he was comic ability, but his serious work was what got him through that so well. Belief on that man's face sometimes. It was joy to work with Simon.
Yeah. And the thing was, he was just so funny, it's like even when you see him going up to the microphone, it's like, hi campers, it's like, say hello to Jeffrey and all that stuff. It's just so funny, hilarious.
We're doing one of those scenes around the pool where Jeffrey Fairbrother had to come up to the mic and, as you say, tap it and go. There was hunters watching, some members of the public behind the fence at the back of the holiday camp. We could see where we were just across the middle field where we were. And I was out there just, having a break, and some of these women standing watching what was going on. And then Simon actually was doing, when they said action, Simon came up to the mic and did one of those little taps and said, "Heidi, hi, campers. Heidi, Jeffrey can't hear you." And this woman turned to her friend and she said, "He's terrible," and just away. Obviously, Simon was doing his job properly, but she thought he was for real.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant. And that's how he was. And he was just you know, he's like the dry, like chief executive guy, you know, who do just talk to the campers and that, and he would just get a lot of abuse from some of the campers as well, and especially in the ballroom and stuff. So funny, you know. I liked the episode where he was playing the records and doing, was it like the book reading thing, and everyone's like, ah.
That's right. Yes. Great fun.
And then you see Ted just going like, this isn't working, you know. Just so absolute. Honestly, it's one of my favorite shows. You could have a bad day and come in and watch a couple of episodes of Heidi High, and it cheers you right up. Seriously, it's so funny, brilliant.
It's just funny today as it was there 40 years ago.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely. But you know, it's like obviously all good things come to an end, and I mean, it must have been kind of wrenching. I mean, obviously, when you make a film or if you do like it's a theatre show, you know, like once it's finished and that's it finished, you move on to something else. But you've been doing that for a good number of years, obviously 9 seasons, like you said. So obviously, I mean, the last episode must have been quite emotional for you, all.
It was very emotional for all of us, really, you know, because it was the end of an era in a sense. We knew, Sue, Paul and I knew that we were going on the following year to do the pilot of You Rang Me Lord, moving on with Jimmy and David. So it wasn't quite so heart-wrenching for us, although, you know, Paul missed playing Ted enormously. But the end of that final recording was so clever, because at the end sequence of that final episode, when Peggy waves everybody off in the coach, she walks away and the camera goes up, and then you watch her walking away, and all the campers are humming Goodnight Campers, humming it, and it's so moving. And she turns around and says, Heidi Hi! Freezes in midair. They freeze her in midair, but I don't know how they did that. It was so clever, because she freezes in midair and all the flags and all the trees are moving around her, but they froze her in the middle of the shot. So clever. But all that sequence, that end sequence of that final episode was 15 minutes, and it was all on film. So it was a done deal. And we filmed it right bang in the middle of our 3 weeks exterior location, right in the middle. So it was just another day's work. It wasn't like there wasn't no feeling of a finality to it, an ending to it. It was just another. And then we went on to do other stuff. You know, for the following 10 days we were there at the camp. So it was a clever idea, that, because we did the first 10 minutes of the studio live with various scenes. And then they said, right, now before we go on, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to shoot the credits, just so we got them in the can, so that then you can watch the rest of it, because it's all on film. So they did the credits, which I thought was a very clever idea. You know, we're all waving to the camera for the final time. And then the studio audience sat and watched the final 15 minutes of that last episode, which was very, very moving. And it was a clever idea, because at the end of that, if we had the credits to shoot, it would have been a logistical nightmare, because all the mascara was running down the girls' faces. Everybody was crying. I was crying. Everybody was crying. It was a really sad, you know, ending to a wonderful series. But that was a clever idea, the way Jimmy decided to shoot it. Was so that, you know, we didn't take us by surprise.
And you know what? It's funny, because I mean, talking about Sue Pollard there, I love Sue Pollard. I absolutely love Sue Pollard. I actually met her years ago, many, many years ago. But I was just a little boy. I was about, I don't know, maybe 10, 11 at the time. And what it was, my sister, she worked as an optician. And Sue came down to open opticians. And like, it was a big optician. It was one of the biggest opticians in Edinburgh at the time. And there was a big crowd waiting outside, and someone said, "Oh, Sue Pollard's going to be opening it." And we were like, "Well, where is she?" Next minute, you just seen this horse and cart coming down London Road towards the optician, and there's someone driving the horse and cart, obviously, and she's sitting next to me, and she's shouting, "Heidi Hi! Heidi Hi!" You know, this is like in the middle of a street. You know, it's just like a busy road that she's on, and it's like the horse and cart, and she's just so hyper as anything. It was like, wow. You know,
great. There's no shrinking violet with Sue Pollard. You get what she.
God, you know, she's got so much energy, hasn't she?
amazing, quite extraordinary. She's still the same now, just as she ever was. I did panto 2 years ago. It was the last panto I did. And it was lovely to be working with her in pantomime. She's got, she played the Wicked Queen, the nasty part, Queen Rat, I think she was. And she got so much energy and zip, she's exhausting, really. Amazing woman. Amazing.
But then obviously, like yourself, once Heidi High finished, yourself, Paul Shane and Sue went on to Your My Lord and was it Old Dr. Beeching?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Dr. Beeching was sort of abused in a sense. It was done at the wrong time for the BBC because it was a David Croft family sitcom. They didn't move on with it. We just did 2 series, and then they axed it because they didn't want any more, and I quote, net curtain comedy. I mean, please. And, that's just an excuse for good, clean family fun. That's basically what we were doing. But the BBC was changing very much in the mid-90s when we were doing that. It was, Men Behaving Badly was the kind of comedy that they were going for then, which is brilliant. And it was beautifully written, beautifully acted by everyone concerned. It was a change in attitude. And our kind of stuff had been decided it was no longer needed, which is a shame because we're proving them wrong right now because it's still being watched. It's still being watched. It's still as popular as ever. Now, people say to me, "Oh, I loved your show. Oh, do you think they could ever bring it back?" And I said, that's going to be rather difficult because half the cast are dead now.
But that's the thing as well, though. It's like, I mean, it was, the show Heidi High on like one of the, I think, is it the Gold channel? Is it Gold that's on?
Sorry, but
I think it's on. Is it Gold that's on? Like, is that the channel that Heidi High's on just now? What's coming on?
They're still showing it, yeah.
And it's
a good run, but the odd one now every odd day.
Yeah. And it's such a shame as well because I mean the great comedies such as Ain't Half Hot Mum, obviously I think maybe just with maybe some of the language in it, like it's obviously the PC stuff, that's maybe why it's not coming on. But that, if but it was so funny. It was such a funny show.
There was a lot of controversy around the fact that Michael Bates played an Indian, because at the time in the 70s when they were doing It Ain't Half Hot Mum, there weren't many experienced Indian actors in the country at the time. But masses of them now, for goodness sake. Look at Mira Sayal's, Satyadeep Bhaskar, and all those guys. Gracious me, and all that. It turned that on his head completely. But there were no Indian actors around. But Michael Bates was an ideal choice because born in India, he grew up in India, and he spoke Hindi and Urdu with about 4 or 5 different dialects. So he knew his stuff, and he was genuine in the sense that he wasn't Indian, he wasn't brown skinned, white, but he knew his stuff, and his accent was superb, and the characterization of Ranchi was wonderful. But there was a lot of controversy afterwards when they wanted to bring the DVDs out and everything, and they were trying to repeat them. Gold are repeating them, but the BBC won't ever repeat them because there's all this woke business now, and all this stuff, that goes on. It's a strange world we live in now. It really, and I don't particularly care for it in lots of ways, but that's all the PC gone mad, really. Michael Bates was brilliant. It ain't off.
And it's like, I mean, obviously with what's happening with all this like woke thing, and it's it kind of ruins comedy, I think. And it's not, I find a lot of stuff nowadays isn't really funny now, compared to back in the day,
We don't have the writers that we had in those days, Gordon and Simpson, Perry and Croft, Bob Esmond, John Larby, the Good Life, and all those shows they did. Great comedy writing teams then.
Absolutely.
Different age now. The world changed, you see. The world changed. Think about when we were doing Heidi High, we were pulling 19, sometimes 20 million viewers an episode every week. If you get 6.5 to 7 now, you're doing well, because There were only 3 channels then. 3 channels, and then came Channel 4, and suddenly there were 4 channels. Now you've got over 700, to take your pick from.
I know. And it's like, I mean, oh God, just, talking about all these old shows. I mean, you've just mentioned them there, like there's Dalton, like Steptoe, absolutely fantastic, so funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, back in those days, I don't know if it's maybe a working class thing, maybe an old fashioned working class thing, like maybe where the good comedy from the writers came from back then. But, it's just stuff that you could kind of relate to, because obviously, I mean, I grew up in a working class. I mean, my dad, he worked in the docks for so many years, and some of the stories he told were just unbelievable. And he's probably told me them about 10 million times, but you still get a laugh out of it. They're so funny, and he laughs when he tells you, and that's what's funny about it as well. Honestly, my dad is absolutely hilarious, honestly. But but I think back then maybe it's just kind of all the comedies. Maybe it's like a working class origin thing, maybe.
On the other hand, you've got things like To the Manor Born, which is up. It's still funny, still very funny. But most of the good baked bread. You remember Bread?
Oh yeah, I love Bread.
Getting an airing on
Boswell's.
That's what was it? That's working class comedy.
Yeah,
it works very well, very well. Yeah, it's good old.
Absolutely funny, but but I mean, all those, like, I mean, obviously, you've obviously kept friends with Sue Pollard, and obviously, I mean, was it lately he's had a Heidi High reunion, haven't you?
Yeah, on Facebook. Yes, it was a fundraiser. There was a little boy who's got what's it called? It'll come to me in a minute. Cerebral palsy, I think.
Yeah.
So, and they organised this reunion. This chap, Barry, he organised this reunion with us, because we've done one for him before, which was live on Facebook. And it was a fundraiser, and throughout the meeting, like you and I are talking here, they go, just a minute, just hang on a second, because I'm going to give people an opportunity to donate. If you want to donate, look at this number, that number, so and so. At the end of the evening, we were chatting online. Ruth, Sue, me, David Webb, and Ricky Howard came on that one as well, which was great fun. I haven't seen over a long time. And we chatted away, and at the end of the evening, when we all said goodnight and went home, we'd raised over 300 quid.
Brilliant.
For this little boy's, he needed equipment and a new chair and stuff like that. We were able to help with that, but it's a nice opportunity to get together again and talk to each other on Zoom like we're doing now.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's like obviously, speaking to you now is brilliant, and obviously I know Sue Pollard, how she still looks great as well. But then it's like, I mean, I've never saw, like, say, Nikki Kelly or that, like, for years. Like, how is she looking these days? Is she looking good?
She's still fine. She's working. She teaches mostly now. She teaches drama. But she's still around. She's lives not far from me, so we see her up the shops occasionally, shopping in Sainsbury's and whatever. Yeah, so every night.
Yeah, but she as well. I mean, I never mentioned Nikki. I thought she was hilarious winding up Gladys and Heidi High as well.
Lovely.
Oh, absolutely hilarious.
Sylvia.
Hey, Gladys tells her to get your hands out your pockets, says Sylvia, and she's giving, but Ruth Maddock as well. She's brilliant, eh?
Yeah, she's amazing. Very, very funny as Gladys Pugh. Very funny.
Oh, she's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it's like, I mean, obviously you've done the Heidi High stuff and the reunion thing, which is fantastic, great cause and stuff like that. But it's like, I mean, you've been on things like, I mean, you worked with Russ Abbott, didn't you?
I did, the Madhouse, Russ Abbott's Saturday Madhouse. Yeah, I did 4 years with Russ on that. And that was for London Weekend television in those days, in the mid-80s. And I almost didn't get that job because I was doing Heidi High at the time. And it was only the producer saw a lot of photographs of me that I brought to the meeting with me. I thought, do my best to get this job because I really wanted to do some sketch comedy with Russ Abbott. It was a wonderful idea. And I brought all my photographs of me in various different roles from my repertory days. Makeup and beards and moustaches and different hats and characters, all the different character work I did. And then he saw these pictures. That clicked for him to have me in the show, because he knew they could, make me up, dress me up, and put all kinds of clothes on me, and I could do various vocal, gymnastics and do all the voices they wanted. So I got the job in spite of Heidi High, and almost didn't get it because of Heidi High, but it was great. We had a lot of fun with that show.
You got to work with, like, say, Les Dennis as well, and with Dustin G, all those guys, Bill Ember.
Very funny.
Oh, brilliant. So how long did you do that for? Was it about
4 years, I think, 4 years. We had a gap in 83, I think, and then we did a final series in 84 or 85. We started in 81. Susie Blake and Bella Emberg and Sherry Hewson, Les Dennis, me. Michael Barrymore was in the first couple of series. He went on to do his own stuff after that. But great days. Great days.
Fantastic. But then, obviously, over the years, obviously, you did, like, back to more theatre stuff, and then you went to do Here's My Friend, Mr. Laurel. You did that in 2013. I didn't know that.
First of all, I did it in 2013. I got the idea. I had the idea way back in the 70s. When BBC Two were showing Laurel and Hardy at 6 o'clock in the evening back in the 70s. And
I remember that.
My childhood love for them was still there, but it was rekindled then. I was a young actor, and I thought it would be a great idea to do a one-man show about Stan. Because nobody's ever done a one-man show about half a double act before, and also what a life, what a story, And people that don't know about Stan's life, when they see the play, they come back to me and they say, "I didn't know that, and I didn't know he did that, and I didn't know that had happened." I mean, sadly, not many people know that he had a baby son who died 9 days old. In 19. Little Stan Jr. was born but didn't survive. Stan himself was a very sickly baby, and he had a very rough time as a very small boy. But he got through it. He managed to survive and went on to become the comedy legend he did become. But I got the idea to do it back then, but I knew I couldn't do a one-man show about Stan at that time. I was still a young man. I was still 20s then when the idea came. So I thought, well, I'll have to wait. And wait, I did. And I waited over 40 years to get that show on. And I met Gail Lowe, who wrote the bulk of the text for me, quite by accident at the right time. It all fell into place when it was meant to be. And Gail wrote all the pretty much all the bulk of the text. I put the comedy in, because that was my side of it. I put all the comedy in. And I put some bits in as well that I wanted to go in there, so little bits of the storyline that I'd written myself and added in. And then I had a conversation with John Plews, who runs the Gatehouse Theatre in Highgate in North London. And he said, "Well, what do you want to come and do that show of yours? Come and do it at the Camden Festival, my theatre." And I said, "Wow, I got a booking." Oh, and I thought, "Oh dear, I've got to learn it now." Because I hadn't, we'd got a script which we'd settled on, made a few little tweaks, obviously, when we got it on, but then I had to set to and learn it, and it's a 27-page monologue, really, and it runs about an hour.
Wow.
And it's all in there now. It's not just my memory, it's in my bones now. I've got it forever. So it's there. If anybody wants it, it's there.
Brilliant. Absolutely. But I loved the show. I thought, it had a mixture of, like, comedy. It was so funny, obviously, what you'd expect from, like, say, Laurel and Hardy, or Stan especially. And, there were some nice little sad bits as well, especially when you're talking to Ollie in his bed and stuff. That was really, really sad.
simple premise. It was Gail's idea. She thought the best way to tell the story was to let Stan tell it in Babe's bedroom, because at the end of his life, Oliver Hardy had a massive stroke, which held him, and he put him in bed for about 11 months before he finally died. Sad. But the idea was so simple. What you've got on stage is a bed frame, literally made a plastic tube, which I can pull apart and carry in a bag and take around with me. And a little chair, which I sit on from time to time, and me. And I talk to an imaginary Oliver Hardy in the bed, and just reminisce about the life they had together, the money they made, the money they lost, women in their lives, of whom there were many. Babe was married 3 times. Stan was married to 4 different women. He went through 7 weddings. Stan.
Seriously?
Yeah, because he married Ileana 3 times. He married her when he thought he was divorced from Ruth, and then he realized the divorce hadn't gone through, so he had to marry Ileana when he had to wait and marry her again to make it legal.
Wow.
And he went to a Russian Orthodox church and had a church service for her and her family. So he married her 3 times before he eventually divorced her.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, those things, that's part of their lives that people don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, obviously, I haven't read up on any of their autobiographies. I mean, obviously, I watched the film Standing On with Steve Coogan, but I mean, it's funny. What I find quite interesting is how, like, you portrayed Stan and how Steve Coogan portrayed Stan, and honestly, Buffy's absolutely just nailed him to a T, which was incredible. Obviously, you brought something which maybe Steve Coogan never, and obviously I think maybe Steve Coogan maybe resembled him a little bit, obviously with the makeup and stuff and everything, but your expressions are just, honestly, you do them to an absolute T, which I find crack me up, honestly, absolutely crack me up.
Impersonation of Stan throughout. When I put the hat on and do the bits of dialogue, that's when the character comes out, the Stan Laurel character. I got the hat on.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of the play is concerned, it's just really sort of get the essence of the man and the story of his life that comes out. That's what the play's about, really. But as far as the impression is concerned, it comes out when I put the hat on. So that's when it's important.
It's like you just turn into Stan once you put his little hat on, and it just turns into. It's funny that, because you get actors, it's like when they're playing a character, like it's a particular item, like it could be a hat or a pair of shoes, which makes them into, then they're that character. I'm sure it was David Suchet actually say they wore a pair of shoes which were like a size smaller for when he walks, like Poirot and stuff. I found that quite interesting.
Poirot walk, and one of his secrets, so I'm not giving it away because it's published and well known. He read a piece about Olivier once when he was trying to play a particular part and get the walk right. He said, "Clench a penny between your buttocks." Try and walk like that, and that's what David did to get Poirot's walk. He said that was a very useful tip, to get the walk right, the tight shoes as well. So his walk for Poirot is, particular. It's well created, well thought through.
Absolutely fantastic. It's just one of these great actors. You could just watch him over and over and over again, and I love David Suchet, absolutely. But it's interesting how he's the actor and his brother's a newsreader, isn't it? Like John Suchet.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Jeff, honestly, mate, thanks so much for coming on this morning. And, I've been looking forward to this all week. I really have. I mean, obviously, it was great seeing you a few years back, but to see you, yourself, and Judy again, it's just, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So that'll be good as well. But honestly, you know what? I was actually out last night at the Christmas market in Edinburgh, and I think I had a wee bit too many how can I put punches, you could say, you know, like say it's like glue wine type stuff, you know. So I'm a little, so I'm a little, I was a little bit tipsy this when I woke up this morning, but honestly, I feel better now, mate. Honestly, those, you know, just hearing you talk all those things, you've really made my day. It's just been absolutely fantastic, Jeff. Honestly, really fantastic. So, absolutely. So, listen, thanks so much, Jeff. I'm just about to press the little end thing here. So, just up another 20 minutes or so, and then we'll get the Judy Meister on.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff. But listen, mate, thanks so much for like coming on. I'll just there's a wee thing here. Hold on. That's that. Get that way. And honestly, hopefully I get to see you again. Hopefully, maybe even see you again in the Edinburgh Festival.
I hope so. I'll bring the show back there again in August next year if I can. It just depends on the situation, you know, and what's going on.
Absolutely.
Harrison will not go away.
Oh, I know. But listen. Well, things will get normal. Just they'll take. I think it'll take a wee bit of time, but we'll get there in the end. We'll get there in the end. But and then hopefully I'll get to see Judy's one woman show. That'll be good as well.
That's coming up. That's coming. We should tell you all about it.
Fantastic, mate. Well, listen. Hope to see you again soon.
All right, Bobby.
And
she'll be with you.
Awesome, mate. And as I said, it'll just be about 15, 20 minutes or something. Okay.
Okay. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jeff.